first.
Mhm.
Um, and I guess the easiest thing here is your best friend is Stardom World. Stardom
Yeah.
World is their VOD service. It's their website where they put up all of the shows, not in a timely manner, but it's where the shows do end up eventually. And it's relatively cheap. I haven't really checked what it is lately. I think it's like 999 yen a month,
And the yen
which
has gone
like
down, so it's roughly like $7, $8, I think.
yeah, so like for the price you get all of the Stardom shows and the entire backlog of Stardom. And if you ever
Well,
get the chance, I mean,
most of the
well,
backlog.
okay, you get a lot of the backlog of Stardom, and not all of it, but you do get some cool stuff from the early years. They have pretty much everything from kind of what a lot of people consider the golden age, which was that 2019 to 2020 run that they had. So you do have a lot to go back and watch if you really fully want to dive into Stardom. Um, but yeah, like as far as watching it goes, Stardom World is like the first place to go, right?
Yeah, totally. Star World's definitely the smartest, but there are also other methods. I'm not going to get into
Yeah.
the nefarious methods necessarily so quickly, but We Are Stardom on YouTube every week is also a very good method to kind of dip your toes in. There's not going to be any subtitles. It's made for a Japanese audience, it's made for TV. In fact, it cuts up the matches, but We Are Stardom, they have most of the big matches since December of 2019. Um, and you can find most of the World Championship matches and Wonder of Stardom Championship matches, even some of the tag matches, Future Stardom Championship matches, tournament matches. There's a lot of good stuff on that, though it is all in Japanese and it's not very easily, uh, you know, sorted through, I guess you could say. But you could definitely, if you want to dip your toes in, kind of look at what the matches have to offer, find out who your favorite is early on without having to pay. I would definitely suggest We Are Stardom. It's on YouTube, so check that out. Um, but definitely the easiest way to get the translated content, which there isn't that much of, but there's enough to keep you in the know in the active moment. I would go to Star World, of course.
Yeah, so Stardom World, they translate the promos on there and they do subtitle them. So if you desperately need English, then that's like the obvious place to go. There are issues with Stardom World. If just being right up front, Stardom does not live stream. You cannot watch their shows live apart from a few exceptions. But they don't live stream. Stardom World like physically cannot stream shows live. Um, so there is a delay in the shows going up. If you happen to have your like card details change, it is very difficult to change them on Stardom World. At least I
Yeah.
found that. I had to like deactivate my account, make a new one, put in new credit or debit card information, and go from there. Right. So it can be a bit picky with that. And a lot of people have issues signing up because I think at one point it asks you for your card details, but it doesn't tell you that you have to flip the month and year at a certain
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
So everybody's always like, oh, why doesn't this take my card? And then it's actually because you have to put in the year first and the month after when you're logging in or when you're signing up and registering your account. So not exactly the most straightforward thing in the world. And I think the
I will
last
say
time,
I will say, sorry for interrupting. I will say
sorry,
that a lot of these issues are just Japanese broadcast issues in general. You'll find this
hmm,
on a lot of Puro streaming services, not Wrestling Universe. I think Wrestling Universe is the only one that's pretty incredibly accessible, and obviously New Japan World. But if you've ever tried anything else, the Dragon Gate streaming service, I mean, if you want to go deeper into Joshi, there's even harder to reach matches and shows. So relatively, it's a fine streaming service with some bugs, but I think that's kind of expected from a lot of Japanese companies these days. But go ahead.
yeah. I think there is sometimes an issue as well when you sign up that the email that they send you to register your account takes a while to send.
Mhm.
Like I don't know if that's instant either. So Stardom World has its pros and cons, but it is essentially the only place to legally watch every Stardom show. So that is point A. That is where you start. Um, and yeah, I don't think they upload the shows in full either anymore.
They
Like
don't.
they
They used to.
they yeah, they upload match by match. Like this is all one guy translating, editing, uploading. So he uploads the
And
shows
also
match by
recording the
match
shows. You
and
could see
recording the
him.
shows.
You could see him
Yeah.
record the shows around the ring. So yeah, they,
Yeah.
they leave a lot up to Sunny specifically. uh, to do a lot of this stuff. So obviously, you, a one-man team can't really produce as much as a full, you know, some other companies are working with when it
Hmm.
comes to their production team.
Yeah, so the matches go up match by match. They used to upload full show files at the end, but I don't think they've done that for a while. Some people like the match by match style. I prefer that. I like being able to just like tick off each match as I go along, if depending on how much time I have, rather than going into the full show. Um, but yeah, that's Stardom World. That's your plan. That's your point A. That's your starting point. Um, as Dylan had said, I think the YouTube is a really good resource for people because it has pretty much everything going on. Like that's where the uh, press conferences happen. That's where they upload like promos and challenges. And I mean, you don't need to speak Japanese to know, oh, she came out and she has a belt, so they're gonna wrestle, right? Um, and that's also where We Are Stardom is. And I think We Are Stardom is a great one because I feel like you could easily keep up with Stardom just through that. And yes, the matches are clipped, but you usually see about 10 minutes of them anyway. And like not that many Stardom matches will be like cutting that much out if you only go 10 minutes.
Yeah,
So,
you don't really need to see a lot of the matches that in Stardom that do go 27 minutes. If they air 18 minutes of it, it's they know how to cut out the fat and not miss any major moments most of the time, obviously.
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So
it,
you're
it's
gonna get
similar to what they used to do for AJW Classics. If
mhm.
anybody's familiar with that, this is a beginner's guide, so I imagine you're not. But
Yeah, I
if
wouldn't
you
think
are,
so.
if you are, they used to do that with the old major Joshi company in the 90s, and that is still used as a resource today because of how accessible it is. So We Are Stardom is a very like eternal thing in Joshi. Like it's a very great resource in my opinion.
Yeah, so I mean, I know the episodes are only about a half hour when they go up on YouTube, but they do have pretty much everything. Like they will keep you up to date as well as you can be for free, basically. And in the meantime, they upload everything else. So if you just watch the other stuff, well, no, it's not translated. Usually, you don't need it to be translated. Um, so I do think the YouTube is a good resource, just for people who are like don't want to pay for Stardom World, then you can check it out there. Like the We Are Stardom show is free. It's every week. I think it goes up on Tuesdays, but I'm not 100% sure. And the last thing then is the pay-per-views. So some Stardom shows air on TV in Japan, and when they air on TV in Japan, international fans can buy those shows and watch them live. That's the only reason that these are live. If the TV companies weren't already streaming these shows, I don't think Stardom would have any interest. But since they are live streamed on TV, they've decided that you can buy them internationally. Now, with the pay-per-views, they don't go up on Stardom World right away. There's usually a delay. Like if the pay-per-view is on a Saturday and Sunday, it's usually the Wednesday that the
Yeah.
pay-per-view goes up on Stardom World. So there is a delay there. And they usually, I don't know, I don't think I've ever watched one of the pay-per-views on Stardom World. They do go up as full show links, but they do translate everything for that one.
Yes.
Obviously, they don't do live translations, but they do translations for the Stardom World version. So very awkward. Stardom is very awkward. You will learn this. But the pay-per-views are basically the biggest shows, and we'll kind of go into later like what you should watch and what you shouldn't watch. Um, but the pay-per-views are the big ones, and they only tweet out those links like 2 days before the show or something. Like they leave it very lax. So if you're wondering how the hell do I buy this show, generally they will put the pay-per-view link up like a day or two before the show. So just don't panic. But pay-per-views are the only way to watch Stardom live. That isn't New Blood, and we'll describe what New Blood is later. But yeah, the pay-per-views are they're kind of the big ones, but there's a lot of them. That I think that's the biggest issue.
Yeah, I will say, and this is probably not great, I would say that the one place where I personally would maybe recommend looking for alternative methods if you are very adamant about watching live is with the pay-per-views because they are very hard to access and they're very expensive for how often they run them. Um, so personally, if you have a if you want to do a watch party with one of your friends, chip in for a pay-per-view and have a watch party in Discord or something like that. That's always a smart idea. Things like that. I actually just checked. They actually have started doing the individual match uploads for pay-per-views,
Oh,
which they
nice.
didn't used
Okay.
to do, but
Yeah.
now that is a thing. So they are the same as the other shows that we described earlier. But yeah, I think the Twitter is another thing we're gonna have to talk about like in
Yes.
depth a bit.
Yes.
But for as for the pay-per-views on that point, they are definitely if you wanna like be smart with which pay-per-views to buy because usually they're good. We watch Stardom every week, so obviously we know what's good and what's not good. But for a new time fan, it's a bit harder to maybe gauge what's worth parting with your money. And so I would just, kind of like read the room type sort of thing. Said it's always smart to pool in money and you know do watch parties on these shows. I personally like to do that because it's just a smarter investment than buying every. How much do the pay-per-views run nowadays for one person?
I feel like they used to be $30 each.
Yeah, yeah. So like just that's always my advice when it comes to these pay-per-views because they are great, and I do
Hmm.
suggest watching them live because Stardom live is a whole different experience than them on delay. But
Yes.
you want to be smart with it is all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, because this isn't a an AEW like once every 3 months thing. Like there's two pay-per-views a month generally
Yeah.
because they give one to Samurai and one to the other channel. So there's generally two shows streamed live every month. So and sometimes it'll do double headers, and they do not bundle those double headers. You have to buy them both. Like the five-star Grand Prix last year, they had the first 2 days back to back. You had to buy those two individually. Like they don't they don't do any niceties, which is another thing you will learn about Stardom if you actually try and watch it. This company does not care about you. It does not like you. If you speak English,
I
it
think
does
we're
not give a
okay.
shit.
I think we're getting a little bit too
Just
aggressive with that.
small
We'll
bit.
get into that
But
a little bit later.
but
Get into it
we
a
are
little bit later.
international fans are definitely secondary to Stardom right now. Um, but yeah, that is how to watch Stardom in a nutshell. There's Stardom World, there's the YouTube, and there's the pay-per-views. Um, I know a lot of people will think, oh yeah, pay-per-views. I will just go to the Great British Bake Off website to watch this. No, that website for Stardom pay-per-views is the least reliable thing in history. You will miss finishes, you will miss matches. It's not worth it. Like, have a plan B and a plan C if you are going to try and watch on that website because it is there is no guarantee that it works. So that's something to warn people about because I know a lot of people will just default to that website for live streams, but it's just not worth it in my experience anyway.
Yeah, it's a bit hit or miss with that. Uh, there. Yeah, I think you covered it all.
Yeah. So I suppose the next thing is now that you know how to watch Stardom,